All right, let's do this. Hey, everyone. This should be fun. I've been working on setting up kind of a little drafting game. I did this once on stream like 3 weeks ago or something, which with just 4 people doing it, where we went through kind of players who were either reported or rumored to be in LCS and had them each we did a snake draft and they could kind of pick players for their teams and stuff like that. But I've really wanted ever since then to do that with a full 10 players. And I want to do it with a full set of actual LCS players for 2021. So there might be a few names that get added to the list before we, actually go ahead and run this thing. So it might be a couple weeks yet before I'm ready. And I also want to be able to include all the academy players. And I think there are, we don't really know academy rosters yet, so there are probably going to be quite a few players added in. But as I do this, I think that the main thing I'm missing right now is probably a bunch of Oceanic players off this list who haven't already been reported onto teams but might end up there and playing in academy and stuff. So if you see players missing on the lists here, throw those out and I'll add them in. The plan for today is to start kind of grouping players into like S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, not hardcore ranking them. And this is more just for partly because it's fun and partly because it will make the game a little easier to play so players don't have to scroll through the whole list of names alphabetically, stuff like that. But what I think will happen when we actually run the game is, some B tier players will get drafted before A tier players and maybe some A's before S's and stuff like that. So just a kind of a tool to make the game a little easier to play once we get to it. It can be an S plus tier. Yeah. What's the point of having an S plus tier? S tier is already I don't know, I'm too old school. I'm not Korean enough to really be into the whole S tier thing, but I'll do it because it's the standard. Is S tier a Japanese thing? Okay, I always saw it in like Code S and StarCraft and stuff like that. I didn't know the full history of it. Anyways, so there's a spreadsheet here, and I'm going to swap the view over. And so if you want to peek in and kind of have a secondary view on the lists of players here, and this is where, I think there are probably a bunch of names. Yeah, I'll do a Tim's Takes on what's the deal with S tier. We'll do that one. I'm sure people would be all over that. A bunch of names missing from this. One I thought of was, I think Tally deserves to be in here from the Oceanic players. But top of mind, I don't have, I'd have to dig through lists and stuff. You guys don't want to see me dig through wikis and stuff to come up with these lists. So I'm still figuring out. I think I'm going to leave this as a separate sheet for each role. So then what we would do is, how do I want to lay this out? We're going to do something like S tier, and then, yeah. Here's how I'll do it. And then I'll just arrange the names alphabetically afterwards. I don't know if I'll end up putting anybody in D tier. It feels very negative. But it's there in case it comes to that. It depends. I'm not sure yet how much separation I'm going to want to actually have between these guys. S for super. S is always the highest rank in Japanese games. All right, good to know. That's helpful. All right, spacing is messed up in A column. Yeah, I know. We'll get to it. I'm going to be moving people out of here. So in the LCS context, I'm just going to start throwing people in, and then we're probably going to move them up and down. Wait, was that the right kind of paste? Paste special, paste values, and yeah, Control Shift V. So these are supposed to be 14 point. But I might move players up and down because it's all relative, right? I should have cut and pasted that. I'm just going to scan through. Somebody's going to be in the S tier. Oh, wait, when I cut, hold on. This is a cut. And it doesn't remove it. That's annoying. All right. I'm not sure the relative here. The number of players in each tier isn't really going to... I'm not going to try to equal out the number of players in each one. Because I think that would kind of mess with things. Well, I'm doing Control X. That's why I was curious, because I'm doing Control X and then Control Shift V is paste values only. If I do it the other way, if I do just standard Control V, it does that. But I wanted to paste. I don't want it to mess with the format. I'm just throwing names in here. I'm gonna move a lot of them around still, I'm sure. Why don't I start with? I'll just change all the formatting after. This is really annoying. I'm tempted to put Huni up there. Yeah, I think people have a lot of opinions about Huni. I'm going to throw guys down. I'm very, very loosely grouping so far. I think Jenkins is a bit of a step below these guys. Licorice should probably go here. Niles needs to prove himself a lot more, but he's not D. Yeah. Huni for me is between B and A, but like it's a little tough because we saw such a rough situation for him to come into in the second half of summer. And like he was playing in a team that I don't think was set up that like didn't make the best use of him, and he couldn't make the best use of the rest of his team. And also the fact that the team was in a lot of turmoil, kind of moving up and down and stuff like that. So yeah. Kumo for alarm. Kumo really, really had a rough summer. Really rough summer. I definitely don't think Huni is D tier even when he's having an off game. I think the way Huni plays means that when his stuff doesn't work, then he looks a lot worse, right? It's just that he's going to try stuff. When it doesn't work, he looks bad. Zion Spartan is a bit of a tough one. Like, this is where I almost might want another grouping here. Like, I think this C tier group is way too... So, like, I'm probably going to have to move some people up into A and some people from C up into B. Do I have Zion in already? Yes, so that's one of the ones that didn't copy-paste properly. Ruin, I think, goes in this group. And it's also tough because some of these guys, like, I think Tony Top and, like, Viper and stuff can be a lot better than what we're seeing. But, like, it's very high on potential rather than actual performance kind of thing. Why don't we just grade the curve upwards by one and make everybody one grade higher? That's what we're going to do. Okay. Formatting. What I should actually just do is this. Bam. Just in case that. Okay. So who would I move up if I'm going to do this? People I would move up. I do feel good about Fudge on A tier. Like, I really, really think highly of Fudge. Yeah, see, I don't know. I don't really want to move any of these guys up into A. Is there anybody in C that I would want to move up? Honestly, I feel kind of okay with this. Like, I'm not really sure what to do with Huni. Fudge has proven himself to me in Academy. Like, I think Academy is a place you can get a reasonable read if you know what you're looking for and how to watch for it. It is obviously different from playing in LCS, but I think people who doubt Fudge are going to be really, really surprised in a positive way. People who aren't sure about him. And it may not be in the first 2-3 weeks, right? But like by 2.5 months in, I think he's going to be in that top 5 mid laner group. I think impact on the right team is going to show a lot better. Who do I think is better in a vacuum, Alfari or Someday? Someday. So depends what you mean by that. Straight up like 1v1, put them in top lane and see who comes out ahead, Alfari. Actual better player overall in all the different ways, Someday. Revenge to D, yeah, I'm not so sure. So like Revenge is one of those where like I try as much as possible to rely on my own insight, and like I lean on other people to help me improve the way I see things, and I'll sometimes lean on their opinions to modify my own opinions. Especially with something like Scouting Grounds, there were a handful of people that I definitely allowed their input to like shape my own opinions a fair amount, because I definitely hadn't had as much time to scout a lot of those guys. But at the LCS level, I don't want to rely on what other people say really and how they feel about it. But yeah, I don't know. I can't even remember where I started on the little rant from. But Jordan Malorm, thank you very much for the Prime sub. Really appreciate it. Revenge so we were talking about Revenge. And Revenge is one where like he didn't stand out either positively or negatively to me really in Academy. Like he seemed fine. FlyQuest Academy as a team seemed like they were really struggling and weren't on a firm footing overall, so that can affect the way an individual player looks, especially a very team-affected role like top lane, where the partnership with jungle is really important, the ability of the rest of the map to kind of either draw pressure away or for you to go and join in plays with TPs and things like that really affects things. So Revenge seemed like kind of a mid-tier Academy top laner to me. Didn't really grab my attention, but the context didn't easily allow him to grab my attention. But then him getting picked up by Immortals, who have a coaching staff that is very, very well versed in top lane skill, and has people whose opinions on like player mechanics and stuff like that I respect a lot. And that does move up my assessment of him a little bit to put him onto the C tier level. So yeah, I kind of feel okay about that. Tenacity up here is a little more on potential. I definitely don't have as much info about him, but I know that there's a lot of potential for him to go really well. So, and yeah, and all of the guys in D tier also I think can step up into C quite easily. So I don't know. I feel kind of good. About this. Can I sort alphabetically left to right? I probably can't. Can I? That's annoying. So I should be doing this the other way around. I'm going to have to adjust it, but I'll do it later. Highwells wants to know if I've heard anything about the League of Legends management game and there might be an alpha in China. I haven't heard a thing. I wouldn't know anything about that. It does seem like something that a lot of people would like to play, and a bit of a stream like this is somewhere you kind of get to start to go with that, but no, I don't know anything about it. I got to decide whether the sorting bothers me enough. It doesn't. I'm just going to build the next one differently. So we're going to move to jungle, and this will get revisited for sure. Yeah, I could do a paste transpose, but I'm not ready for it yet. Going to leave a column in between so that I can do this. Give it a little bit of margin, which I like. Okay, jungle. We got a long list here. Okay. So let's start off with the S tier. Center the tiers. Yeah. Okay. S tiers. So we're going to throw... I think for LCS, I'm going to throw Closer in the S tier. Might end up moving him down to A. But I think of Centauran, I think it's really going to be... Wait. I was looking for Blabber. Spica will definitely be A tier. Scaran would be A tier. Xerxes is going to be between A and B. I'm going to lean B for now, honestly. I think the more I watch of him in summer this year, the less happy I am. Broxa's probably B. He's also kind of in between that B and A, but we'll see. Bobib, I don't know a whole lot about. I'm going to throw him in C tier because I think that's reasonable. And I'm not sure, he might be a C tier, but contracts I like quite a bit. Dardoch I think is fair to put in here, although I think he's a little more team reliant. If I'm going to put Anda down there, I got to put those guys down there. Jose Dioto, I also I haven't really watched him much. Saw a little bit at Worlds. I'm not sure whether to put him in B or C. I think he's got high potential, and there's a lot of hype, so I think it's fair to put him in B. Kenvi, yeah, I think I'm going to move a couple of these guys up. Man, Google Sheets does not like removing the initial cut point if you do any kind of unusual pasting. What's the point of making this list? You're just going to put all the Academy players below SCS players? Oh, we're not done the list yet. Medios. NXI needs time, but I think he can end up on this. I think he will end up on this tier. I think Surenfire is pretty good. Yeah, so this is way too bottom weighted, so I've definitely like scaled this wrong. I'm gonna have to move some players up to make it more reasonable. But at the same time, like, these are my gut reactions on these players. I do think jungle it has less, you know, overall. NXI is definitely not A or S tier. Like, oh, you're saying, I guess you're saying the trophy that he could develop into that. So that's more fair. Yeah, so there's a question. Warring Nation says, shouldn't we be basing this on potential instead of current performance, given the fact that LCS junglers usually will be better than Academy players? Yeah, like, I'm not sure. I think I'm approaching this more as kind of current form or like half a year of development form rather than overall longer term potential. Because for the purpose of this is to feed into this like GM game thing. And people are going to build teams that we're going to evaluate. Like, how well did you do in building out a team? So I think, you know, I'm weighting it a little bit more towards kind of current form or like short-term form. But when the GMs or, you know, whoever plays this is going to be building out their team and drafting, if they want to draft more for potential, then they're going to drop down a tier and say this player has more potential, right? And that's what I'm building towards. So yeah. So I want to move some players up into A. I think Xerxes is a reasonable A. And out of this list, if I had to pick one or two of them, and I think I will, probably these two guys. I feel like I might be short selling Jose Duda, but I'm not really sure. Current and the future, yeah, I think that's putting a little bit too much into what I want this spreadsheet to be, but it is definitely reasonable to approach it that way. So now I'm going to move some players C to B. Kenvi is very much on potential, but goes up to that level for me, a little bit more potential weighted. Broxa is debatable. I think the last couple months of this year, Broxa looked a lot better than he had the rest of the year. He was really kind of rounding into like what to do working with the team. So I think I probably feel a little better about Broxa than many other people do. But I think it's fair to doubt him, right? So, and I think he's going to be on a team that's going to make it difficult for him to prove anybody wrong this year. I think CLG will be okay. I think Broxa is not, you know, a bad player on that team and kind of fits in with the level of that team, but yeah. There's a lot of room for, like, I would say both Broxa and Contracts would be kind of a in between A and B, but I don't want to overcomplicate this. I think you could argue Babip going up, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I'm okay with that. Is there anybody I would move from D to C? Yeah, I'm going to have to revisit this one and think a lot harder about it, but thoughts on amateur players. So I have some amateur players in here. I think Rosethorn has a ton of potential. I think Zaun has quite good potential. NXI is an amateur player, and I think he stands out a little bit ahead of the pack right now. Kenvi was an amateur player up until very recently, you know, very much towards the end of the year. I think there are a lot of good amateur or, you know, just were amateur junglers who are going to come in and kind of supplant a lot of the academy level guys. Jungler or mid laners are going to move on to. The criteria I'm using here is mostly current form, but some potential. I'm evaluating more on like how good I think they'll be kind of 3 to 6 months from now. So let's see. Starting again with S tiers. I think for LCS level, Like, it feels a little bad to put some of these names on a tier with perks, but we're going to do it. Who else? I think Jizuke is underappreciated. I think he was doing better this year than a lot of people give him credit for. Yeah, that's how we're going to start out here. Yeah, we could say perks is S+, but, you know. Oh, yeah, I was also going to... The reason I switched to this alignment was that I could... No! I hate you, Google Sheets. Sort range by column B. There we go. That's better. All right. I like you again, Google Sheets. You're okay. Don't Nerf asks if I think we'll see Tallywhacker in NA next year. I think there's a pretty good chance he'll be on an academy team, especially if, like, I don't know anything about him as a person, but if he can be like a teacher, right? If he can be a guy who can guide younger players really well, then for sure. Yeah, I don't have 5-Fire in here, and I should. Good catch. He'd better be in academy next year. I'd put him at this level. Tally. So Tallywhacker is shortened to Tally. He was the mid laner for Legacy at Worlds this year and in OPL. He had role swapped from top, I believe. I don't know if it was the start of the year or midway through the year. I don't remember. Sword, I guess, could go in this. I know very, very little about Sword, and I don't know if he's going to be able to play, right? Like, I think he's still 16, isn't he? Maybe 15? Oh, yeah. Multi-selected doesn't like doing that. C9A is about to go to Worlds. Now, C9A is going to be good from what I'm hearing. I don't know all the details yet, but... Okay, Sword is 17. All right. Yeah, I don't know anything about him. I think just for the sake that I can't properly evaluate him, I'm going to be putting him in D tier for now because it's so heavily weighted on potential. And otherwise, I'm going to have a very crowded C tier again. So this is not me hating on Sword or anything like that. Apparently, he's 18 now. So... I think Copy is at this level. I think Olive between C and B. I don't know if he's far enough ahead of these guys. I'm leaving a lot of room in A and B tiers, so he might end up moving over to B. Triple's all right. Phoenix is, Phoenix is still Phoenix. Froggen is still Froggen. But I wouldn't really build them into this stuff. Demonte is better than these guys, I think. Tally is hard to say between C and B. Yeah, all the C9A stuff is pretty much rumor at this point. So, Tally, I'm not sure. I'm gonna put him C for now. I think he could play his way out of that group. I think a bunch of these C's I'm gonna end up shifting up a step here as I go on it. Didn't I move Tuesday already? No, I didn't. I thought I did. I think Insanity is a little bit ahead of most of these guys. Sully goes in this group as well. Let's see. Oh, lost my scroll. Thoughts on Fake God? Fake God, I've got him in C tier right now, but I think he could jump into B tier pretty easily. I think Fake God has more to show than we saw of him in Academy. So... Was Froggen that bad in Academy? I mean, he's just not... He wasn't really special. And he should have dominated Academy a lot more. Like, I think Captain Flowers calls it the someday test or something like that. If you're going to go down and have to play in Academy and you're supposed to be that good, you should completely crush it. And Froggen didn't really crush it. Why is Demonte greater than Pobelter? Because I think he's better than Pobelter. I think he brings more to the team and he's more dynamic. I think he understands certain fundamental things about the game. Pobelter is a little more kind of a straightforward player. So, yeah. Am I like completely missing some players off this? I need an updated portrait pick. I do. I actually, I do have been thinking about that, getting some better headshots of some sort. Yeah, I feel like, do I really have such low opinions of the overall mid lane talent pool in NA? There's got to be some more. Because otherwise, do I really only have 5 players at this level? I guess. Yeah, I only have 5 players in SNA at top lane. Whereas Yusui on this list, right now I've got him in C tier. Yeah, I feel off about this overall somehow, but I'm trying to think of how. I totally understand people are going to disagree with where I put players in some of these lists, and that's what makes it fun. And you can make your own list. If I'm going to move anybody in C up to B, who is it going to be? It's probably going to be Phoenix. This is not to say that I would put Phoenix in an LCS roster, but that, you know, his core skill set, like his mechanics and so on, have always been very good. It's the way he plays into the team and so on. Palafox was, to me, like, it was only the very last part of summer where he kind of jumped ahead of the pack. And I think like I've been saying this over and over, I think if Palafox continues the growth curve he showed towards the end of this year, then it's going to go really well. If he kind of reverts to the average level we saw him at throughout 2020, then I think, you know, he's going to hover around that bottom group of LCS players, and is like, it's all going to be about how quickly he learns, whether he can kind of keep pace at LCS or not. And I think, you know, the most recent signs are encouraging, but I'm not completely sold on it yet. And I'm not sold enough to put him into an A tier. And I'm not really sold enough on any of this group to put them into an A tier. I just feel like something about this list is just so bottom heavy. It feels off, but yeah. I think mid lane is like Tom Shu said, a lot. It's definitely a potential based role right now, other than the very top group. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get too hung up on this one and kind of sit on it forever. So let's move on for now. I might come back to it. I mean, sure, I'll definitely come back to it. But why would I put Insanity over the people in C? You know, it's a good question. It's a valid question. I think if it's partly because I don't like having so many people in C. And I think of that group, he's one of them. Like, I think he's shown some pretty good potential. I think you could make a pretty good argument for dropping both Insanity and Phoenix back down to C, but then I've got like 9 people in the top 3 tiers. That's hardly anything. So that's how I feel about it. Also, they're sorted within the tiers alphabetically, Palafox, so you chose a name that starts with a P. You go towards the bottom. It's not my fault. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to revisit the mid lane one when I'm not on stream and kind of think a little harder about it. I think I'll move a handful of players still. Insanity's play in Academy was very much, I think, like high highs, low lows kind of thing, which for a younger or like less developed player is completely fine. So I think that's a more positive thing than having a sustained average level in Academy. Do I think Ryoma will see a good resurgence this year? I think he'll do quite well in Academy. Yeah, I think he'll be a really good Academy player. I'm not sure if he'll play well enough to like justify time in the LCS again or anything like that. I'm not certain on that, but I think it's possible. Bang, I kind of want to take off this list. I don't think he's going to play in an A again, but I could use half tiers. I could use pluses and minuses. So do I think NA will get out of groups in 2021? Oh man, it's way too early to say that. Put King in S where he belongs. Oh, I don't know about that one. Here we go. Who else would I put up at that level? Man, S tier just feels so strong to me. S is like who can I put in an S? Yeah, FBI. Like, is Tactical an S tier bot laner? For what it's worth, LCS team getting out of groups, I'd say it is pretty kind of evenly balanced on maybe yes, maybe no. Let's see. I might have to change my weighting on this quite a bit. Oh boy, how do I feel about that? So these guys are a lot more in potential than actual. Anybendy's a little down from that. Tactical might be an S, but I'm not completely sold on that. if like I could put Tactical in S and put Johnson in an A, or I could put Tactical in an A and Johnson in a B. I don't know. If you're TSM, would you take the last split with DL or run with Lost? I would probably go with Lost because it's more of a long-term play, and I think given the way the offseason's gone for them, I would lean towards the longer-term approach. I'm also not a fan of the reported drama around the fact of Doublelift putting like restrictions on whether he's going to play with the team or not. And I just like, I don't really feel like I want to be associated with that, to be honest. But maybe that's been misreported, and I don't want to make kind of big judgments about that. So I don't think Jacob Bull's rumors were that Doublelift would retire if Sword Art doesn't sign. Maybe he did say that. My impression was he didn't want to play with TSM if Sword Art didn't sign. Maybe I completely misinterpreted that. I don't know. But if I'm TSM, I'm leaning towards Lost. I think he's very good, and you could run with him for sure. I want to create some separation here, so I am going to move Tactical up. I'm going to move Johnson up. Excuse me. Oh, what do I do with Stix A? Do I think Tactical is S tier? Yeah, like I think S tier in an LCS context, sure. Sure. Neo also goes by the name Asta. That's what he was playing with in Academy most recently. He looked really good in Academy, honestly, and he only had part of the year with them, so. Domo, I think, is all right. Stix A, I think, is going to drop down C tier, unfortunately. Now I have 2 in B tier and like 1 million in C tier, so let's take another look at this. I don't know. Again, I don't really see why is Wild Turtle B for me. I mean, where do you think I should put him? Do you think he's an A? Do you think he's a C? Wild Turtle was pretty underappreciated, I thought, this year. I think he played really well, especially when he came back from being sent to Academy, and everything he did after he came back from that was really good. So you think he's an A? A is pushing it a little to me. Then I like literally don't have a B tier, so. Raze might be in B, but I'm not convinced yet. Where would Sneaky rank? Yeah, I guess he does need to be on this list, doesn't he? But I haven't seen him play professionally for a year. Do I just rate him based on how he was playing a year ago? I wouldn't phrase it as Wild Turtle is worse than King. I'd phrase it as King is better than Wild Turtle. So, removing this year for Doublelift's career, would you consider his entire career to be S tier? In an LCS context, absolutely. I think Doublelift, overall North American League of Legends, is one of the 2 greatest North American League of Legends, like LCS players of all time, alongside Bjergsen. So not North American in that sense, but LCS players. Just on how well he's played, like what his peaks were, how much he's achieved, how much he's won. Absolutely. But this year was not a good year for him. So MASH, I'm not confident putting MASH into B tier. That's not where I'm going to land on this. Well, I mean, so here's the thing, Dallas. If I want to start separating out like all of the Academy players into B, C, and D, then I need more tiers. So I'm missing Shaden. That's a good point. I know very, very little about Shaden. Where would Bang be? I would slot Bang in between A and B. Probably B tier based on how he played this year. But I think like if he was more comfortable and kind of feeling better, all that kind of stuff, in the right team context, he definitely should be an A, but he was playing at a B level. Put Perks in S tier for bot lane just in case. No, Perks is playing mid. Apollo, yeah. No, this is a good catch. Apollo is somebody who I should move up. I think he's actually quite reliable. A little bit underrated. He's not like, he's a B tier plus minus nothing. Like, he's not going to become A tier, and he's not going to drop to C tier kind of thing. So some of these guys you say like King is an A tier who might drop to B, you know, if he doesn't jump into LCS at the same level. I don't want to put more tiers. I don't want to overcomplicate this. You know, some players like Deftly might be able to play up into a B relatively easily. Prismal, I think, could grow into a B quite well. Shoryu as well. I think Stixite could find himself back and be a B, or even like if it was really just a horrible off year, he could jump into an A. Is Alltech playing this year? I'm not sure. But I think for coverage, it would be worth having his name in here. And since I was talking, I forgot to do this. I don't know what to do with Shaden. But I think since I've heard a lot of really like high potential stuff about him, but he's also really young. So do I feel like I'd put him above all these folks? Yeah. I think I have to put him in a D even if I don't really want to, just because I can't confidently say he deserves to be higher than that because I don't have the information on it. Alltech would be, he was not better than Apollo. Jojo Pion for mid. Yeah, he's been playing in those Core JJ things, hasn't he? So I can put him in here. But again, like I don't think I really have a choice but to put him in D tier because I just don't know enough about him. He wasn't at Scouting Ground, so I wasn't able to kind of scout him for that. He'll go out on the ledge that Schernfire is D tier. So Schernfire's time in Academy, when he was there briefly at the end of the second half of spring, that was the best TL Academy looked, and it was the best Yusui looked all year, and Schernfire was playing really well. He was like, he never had a chance to succeed at all in LCS with Team Liquid. He was thrown in there because of bad circumstances. It just things never had a chance to click. Nah, I don't blame Schernfire for the LCS stuff, and I was pretty happy with how he was playing in Academy. So, we talked about Sneaky? I didn't actually add him in. Sneaky, I think, would never come in and fail you hard enough that you'd feel really bad about it. I also don't think he's going to come in and like carry stuff really well. I think I would slot him in B tier. That being said, I can't really think of an LCS context where I would be happy putting Sneaky on my team right now. Unless, again, I haven't watched him throughout the year. Like, I don't watch streams or solo queue really, so unless I'm specifically trying to investigate a player, and I haven't done that with Sneaky. Oh, I did put him in twice. Wait, did I already put him in here as well? No. Okay. So, I don't know. If an LCS team wants to run with Sneaky and they've got reason to do so, then they're going to have a call on that. So all of these lists are definitely subject to change still. If I come back to them while I'm not on stream, if more players get added to the lists and things, and that kind of adjusts the curve, like all of this is graded on a curve, right? So is Spica A tier because of the regular split? Because I feel like he was S tier only during the playoffs. Yeah, so I thought he was underrated during the regular split. I wouldn't have said he was playing A tier in the regular season, but there were things that he was doing where you go, you know what, actually he's kind of doing okay, and you can see the potential there. And then it really it clicked a lot more, especially throughout playoffs and especially in the back half of playoffs. So Spica is being rated on the curve that he's been showing, but also I think the start of that curve, in my opinion, was higher than a lot of other people feel it was. So a lot of these players putting him in the same tier is going to feel a little weird just because I'm only having 5 tiers, right? And I got to put somebody somewhere. All right. S tiers, Vulcan, Core JJ. Yeah, I gotta put him A. Where would I put Sword Art? I think Sword Art would be S tier. Ignar. Man, so I voted Huhi above Ignar and All Pro, but I think I would put them very even with each other. No, I think I like overall, like if I'm building a roster, I thought Huhi played better than Ignar in the summer split, and that was a regular season All-Pro team, right? Palette has decided to stay in the VCS. That's what I saw. I think Ignar is overall a better all-around player than Huhi at support right now. I think Huhi is continuing to improve there since role swapping to it. I think one of the greatest things about Huhi is how well he paired with FBI. So I think I feel okay putting Ignar above Huhi. I may change my mind later. I haven't seen enough from Rhino yet, but I think he could move up. I'm not sure on these ones yet. I think Biofrost is fine. I think on a different team he'd be better. Possibly. Or like he needs to have a comeback year. Diamond is a bit of a tough one. But I think he's better than these guys. Ayla, I don't really know much about. No, Destiny's fine. Does Bio have a team yet? No, I think he probably won't. Shady, I don't want to get too carried away with his Scouting Grounds play. He was so good at Scouting Grounds, but is that what, what to judge him on? I think outside of Scouting Grounds, he wasn't as good. TSM made and broke Biofrost's career. I mean, I guess you can look at it that way. That's the more entertaining way to talk about it. I think support is a pretty bottom-heavy role in North America right now. Ayla and Isles, I think, are both, to me... Like, these are guys where I don't have a ton of info that I'm basing it on with them. I would need to go and, like, specifically kind of scout them, and then I might revise my opinions. I don't have enough info to say that I'd put them higher than that. Newbie is a rumor. Again, I don't know anything like really about him, but I'd probably, based on the little I do know about him, I'd probably slot him in C. Breezy, I have mixed opinions about. I think he's done things that looked good, but also had some more downtime. The fact that, like, what I hate most about doing this is putting people in D and having that feel so negative. I like being more celebratory, especially when talking about kind of less developed players or like younger players or stuff like that. I think the fact that anybody is on these lists at all should be celebrated. Like, anybody who is on these lists is worth saying, like, these guys are really good and they all deserve to be in this conversation at some level. So how much do I win AD being able to play weak side when the support roams versus a lane king midi with the support babysitting them? I think both are really valuable. So, for example, like Wild Turtle is somebody, the reason that I have him in B tier is partly because he is able to play in a way that his support can roam really well, and then he, gives up the minimum and stuff like that. But FBI is one who I rate really highly because of his ability to dominate lane. So I think both of those are valuable in their own way. If anything, I would give a little more credit to the players who can carry well with high resources in this role, because I think that's more often what the role is for. But both of those are really important to me. So all of these things, again, there are players who probably need to come onto these lists as some rosters come in. Things aren't finalized, but yeah. Another example of the whole resource thing in here, maybe I'll translate this. I'm going to translate this for the top lane now too. Like Impact is a player who is rated high because of his ability to play with the resources and stuff like that, but he can't really win his lanes consistently. So, but I do rate a player like Licorice, maybe, and maybe not the best example, but slightly higher than Impact. Licorice is, that's partly because he's more versatile. He can play more different styles than Impact effectively. I'd say some of his reliability and kind of core fundamental understandings are a little worse than Impact, but how is Kumo in D? He had a really good LCS shot. He unfortunately couldn't perform up to it. He went down to Academy. He looked just as bad in Academy, unfortunately. So that pushed me off of Kumo quite a bit. I think Viper shouldn't be in D. I'm going to change my mind on that one. I think he's C. I don't think that's fair. Is there anybody else I'd shift around here a little bit? Like, again, so Niles, Tenacity, I'd say even Revenge, very much on potential. Tony Top is not better than these guys in my opinion. Oh, sorry, Tony Top, not C. Maybe. I mean, he's got really good mechanics and stuff, so. Midway to next split, can you do a list for mid-jungle duos? That would be an interesting piece of content. That could maybe make a good Run-It episode, actually. I think it's reasonable to put Tony Top into C here. I think he's going to need more time to develop than someone like Niles. Arguably even than someone like Tenacity. I would say, yeah, then Tenacity probably won't need as much time either. But I think like he might have a very high ceiling. I think his macro understanding has a long way to go. and like ability to kind of work really well within a team, which is so important for a top laner. But he's got a core skill set that is really intriguing. So apparently Captain Flowers is calling for teams to sign Tony Top during the in-house games. Tony Top is the kind of player who is going to look incredible at scouting grounds because none of the teams are very organized and the level of players around him is around the same level as him. But he's also the kind of player that if you threw him into an LCS match, he would look like garbage right now. And I don't mean that in a way to like flame him or offend him or anything. It's just these are the things, like he has to work on all the things that you'll get exploited for in LCS. Those are the types of things he has to learn. It's the type of player he is, not the level of player he is. And so like Tony Top needs to learn all of the like how to lose gracefully, what to do if you didn't crush your lane matchup, a bit of a more stable champion pool, I would say, even all these kinds of things that are not things that say he's a bad player, because I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's got a ton of skill, but going into LCS when all you have is a ton of skill, and then now if your skill was 2 notches higher than all the other players, say in amateur circuit, and that carries you ahead of them, and then you snowball and look really well, right? It's the type of player who crushes when it works. But if now you go up to LCS and now all the other players have a core skill level that is equal with yours even, let's not even say that it's higher than yours, it's equal with yours, but they also know how to coordinate with their jungler better, how to use comms better, when to move up in a side lane and when to not, and when to rotate and join the team. All of these little things better that are much more subtle and take time to learn, and you need a lot of experience with that. Then now you didn't crush your lane matchup, so you don't have any margin on the rest of it, and now they just kind of gap you on the rest of it. So it's going to lead to a player like Tony Top really looking bad, worse than he is. He's going to, like, at a level where he's 2 notches of skill above everyone else, he's going to look better than he is. At a level where he's the same skill level, core skill level as everybody else, he's going to look worse than he is. So, you know, Tony Top is the guy who I'd love to see a year in academy, and learn all of those fundamental things. And then he could join up and move up into a B or even an A tier once he's figured out all that other stuff. And this is why I put Niles like in Scouting Grounds power rankings that we did with Mobalytics. If you haven't seen those, check those out. It's why I put Niles ahead of Tony Top, because he has not a great level of understanding of all those, like how to side lane properly and stuff like that, but better than Tony Top's. And that's why I think he's you know, half a year of development ahead of Tony Top, for example. Swagasaurus, the general manager of FlyQuest, wants to know where I rank Jose Dioto. Jose Dioto is one that I said, like, I don't have a ton of info on him. I need to scout him more deeply. I've got him slotted in B tier right now. I think if I go and and he's a player that I would like in a little bit of time. I would like to evaluate him more closely and watch a bunch of his VODs and then see if I still feel that way or if I want to move him up. I think in top lane, I think I have too many in C and not enough in D. But I hate putting people in D tier. What do I think of Jenkins? I think Jenkins has potential. I think he was part of this Team Liquid Academy team that had very little opportunity to succeed. And so that kind of hurt. But I don't think he was like an especially weak point of that team. I think Synergy was the weak point of that team, honestly, mostly. Yeah. No, I mean, I think Jenkins did some things every now and then. I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty good. And like, let's see. But I think Fake God can be B tier pretty easily. But the way I've got this weighted out, B tier is players like Solo, Hauntzer, Finn, Huni, like these guys. Putting Fake God on the same level as them feels a little off to me. So I think I'm definitely okay having players like Revenge, Dokla, Deus, Ruin, I guess. I'm okay with having all of them in the same tier, which is why I'm having a hard time saying like who would move up and who would move down and stuff like that. I don't want to spend too much time kind of like, again, like I think I'll probably tweak these lists a little more off stream yet, but I'm doing it. I'm moving Phoenix down. I could do more tiers, but so again, for people who aren't familiar, the reason I'm doing this tiered out spreadsheet is to be a tool for in the future doing an LCS Armchair GM drafting game when people are going to cycle through and pick the next player to be on their team and so on. So the depths of the list, the C and D, are mostly there like if you want to reach and go for a player with high potential kind of thing. I'm expecting that in most cases, so like in top lane, we got 10 players at B tier or above, and you most likely those would be the 10 players with maybe, plus minus one or two of them that would end up actually getting drafted. So I'm not really that concerned about the C and D tiers, honestly. That's not the purpose that I'm really building the spreadsheet for. I also think Finn is better than people think. Finn got ripped on so much on broadcast all the time. It was really like, and it's not entirely unfair, right? Like, he had a lot of games where it just didn't go well and he didn't look very good, but he's not the player that you would think he is if all you ever did is form your opinion based on what's said on him on the analyst desk. I think he is better than that. I think, Rogue had a really good year, and he was part of that year, and they didn't do it in spite of him. I'd say he wasn't necessarily the reason that they won games all that often, but I don't think, and I understand why analyst desks do kind of pick up on that, and they want to be out there being entertaining. They want to have strong opinions. They also don't want to diversify their storylines too much all the time from show to show. They want to give people to hold, continuing threads to hold on to. Like, there are all kinds of valid reasons why that was on broadcast as much as it was, but I think it really formed a very overly negative interpretation of who Finn is as a player. If I have any issues with CLG signing Finn, it's because they had to pay a buyout, probably a small one, but they had to pay a buyout for him, and they locked him in very early in the offseason when they could have had free agent players who didn't require a buyout and didn't require an import slot, who might have been at a similar level or even slightly below, but cost them a lot less in kind of free agency resources kind of thing. Whether it's financial, whether that's import slots, stuff like that. So, and also I have some issues with the team that CLG have built around him. I'm not entirely sure what they're trying to accomplish with the roster. Like, are they trying to win now? Are they trying to develop towards a longer term set of goals? I think Finn can be somebody that you try to work into a set of goals with, but the rest of the roster doesn't really aim towards that. So they seem like they kind of like tried to achieve 2 goals at once and didn't really nail either goal. But I don't hold this as like an indictment of Finn as a player or anything like that. If I power rank CLG on a, very low in the standings, and I say that I'm not super happy with their offseason, it's not because I don't think Finn is a decent player. Yeah, this has been kind of fun, kind of interesting. Definitely going to adjust these a little bit and continue working on the spreadsheet to get ready for whenever we do this show. More players are going to come in, especially as academy rosters get rounded out, and I think we'll see some more players coming in that aren't established yet. I'll definitely also, once the LCS rosters are final, I'm going to do another stream talking through my power rankings and my offseason grades for all the teams. And if you want to see my power rankings and offseason grades kind of taking shape, I've got an initial set right now that I'm kind of revising up and down as the rest of the news hits. And so you can see that if you are a Patreon subscriber, you can actually get a link to that already. So check that out. And it'll be probably another week or two before I'm ready to kind of finalize that for this offseason and move forward with that. But for now, I'm going to leave it there. I appreciate all the input from everybody, even when we disagreed on stuff. Thanks again, everyone, for hanging out. See you again next time. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think of my take. If nobody ever disagreed with what I was saying, it wouldn't be worth putting out there. So I want to hear from you, whether you like what I was saying, whether you think I got it wrong somewhere. Either way, let's have that conversation. Make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. It really does help the channel grow a lot, so I appreciate it.